March Madness is upon us. A couple of that with the NBA season is going on, actually going to the playoffs. A better way to bet on those games and games in other sports like the Premier League and everything else, or even Major League Soccer, than betus.com, where you can get 125% of the sign-up bonus, which is up to $2,500 by using the promo code TKT for the Klown Times. So what are these other perks here? You can bet on the go. You can bet anytime, anywhere on your mobile device. You get fast pass, so you get paid immediately every single time. And last but not least, you can you could do live betting where you can bet during the game, getting the early and the best lines. Again, use my promo code TKT for the Klown Times to get up to 125% of the sign-up bonus, which is up to $2,500. So again, not to sound like a book record, but go to betus.com where the game begins. Welcome to this week's edition of the Klown Hour Podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Hello. And you can check me out on the Klown Times. That's my hat. It's got it backwards, but www.theclowntimes.net. And you can check me out on Facebook as well, where your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are, wherever it may be. It's time for the Klown Times. In the search window, you'll find me there as well. My co-host in the house, y'all know him with the Brooklyn Dodgers hat. Shout out to Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, 75 years, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That fateful day that my mother, as a little girl in Brooklyn, will never forget to this day. But anyway, check his great work on the Yards at HBCU Sports reps for all things HBCU Sports. So we're Sleazy Radio every Tuesday on Facebook Live and YouTube. So check them out there as well. And also check out his great work on herosports.com, where he raps for all things FCS athletics as it pertains to HBCUs. Before we get to the podcast, a couple of things. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We picked up a couple of subscribers today. So again, I'm pushing. I want to get to 500 subscribers by the end of May. I'm pushing for that. So hey, and hopefully end the year with more than 1,000. That would be awesome. So
yes, anyway, it would.
I celebrate small victories. I said it many times before. I celebrate small victories. So at any rate, just continue to do that and show us some love there, and we'll show you some love back. And hit the bell so you get notified of new videos, because this YouTube algorithms is real. So please help a brother out. You get helped out as well. And also, speaking of hat, get the merch.
Get that merch.
CafePress.com, search for the Klown Times Sports. I have the link in the description when this gets uploaded to YouTube this week, as well as Dwayne's good work in the description as well, so you can find us there as well. All right. The NBA playoffs is week one. The week one NBA playoffs is opening weekend. It was fantastic. It lived up to the hype. I love NBA. I love the NBA, and I love the NBA playoffs more, especially the Eastern Conference. We talked about it before on podcast past. I was hollering at my two homies last week, Kevin McCune and Jared Singleton, about the NBA playoffs. Had a good time talking about the East, and looks like we're going to have an exciting open round series, none other than Brooklyn and Boston. Now, I thought this series would go 7, with Boston coming on top on 7 in 7 games, and it looks like it's going to live up to the hype. I mean, after they start off feeling each other out, even though they're division rivals, right, at the beginning, because Boston's coming off a long layoff. Brooklyn played the playing game on a few nights prior. But I found it interesting was that when Boston was threatening to break it open in the third quarter, the Nets came storming back, and there was a part because of Kyrie Irving. I mean, the brother man had, 39 points, 12 of 20 shooting. That's like, damn, that's a 60% clip. And hit 6 of 10 3-point shots. Hit all 9 of his free throws, and was just a stud in 42 minutes of play. I mean, if he got any contribution for Kevin Durant, if Kevin Durant played his C+ game, they would have won. Brooklyn would have won by double digits, I thought. because Durant was only 9 of 24, 23 points. He scored less points than he took shots. Does that make any sense? He had 6 turnovers. So he played, that was the worst I've seen him play. Now I doubt that Kevin Durant would play that way again.
Oh God, no.
And so I think they'll make the adjustments accordingly, but this is gonna be a damn good series. And like I said last week to the fellas, I quit up Boston for not ducking them. They could have easily tried to duck them, but they're like, nah, we ain't ducking anybody. And so, especially them being division rivals as well. So this is great, man. A defensive team led by Marcus Smart on the defensive end. Shout out to Marcus Smart, by the way, for winning the defensive player of the year.
Defensive player of the year.
Bravo to him. He's only the not many guards win that award.
Oh God, no.
So
the only other guards I can think of that have probably won it have been, of course, Gary Payton, who presented him with the award today.
That's right.
And maybe Mike?
Michael Jordan won it. Michael Jordan won the defensive player of the year. I forgot when exactly he won the defensive player of the year. So it has out his masters. But I think the whole story, depending on how you look at this, was soured maybe. I thought it was pettily enhanced. And I'll explain why later. By Kyrie Irving interaction with the crowd. Now, you saying these press conferences, right? When he said that he's going to have that same energy that the fans have towards him. He hasn't realized how things ended, right? I mean, how things ended when he wanted out of Boston.
Of course.
He got traded there. And now the fans turned on him. And I tuned in to yesterday's game, almost from start to finish, just to see the reaction. Because the series alone, in fact, besides them having the 2 teams that could easily go far in the Eastern Conference playoffs, I think even Brooklyn has a 7th seed because they got both their guys, and who the hell knows if Ben Simmons shows the hell up. But the point being is that both teams, I think, it's an issue matchup between offensive star power and defensive toughness, right? Between Brooklyn and Boston, respectively. And we're going to see this chess match throughout the whole series. But I saw with Kyrie, like when he hit that big shot to take the lead, he went back, gave him the finger and just carried on. And then later on, he gave him the double bird. And there was this one instance when he was about to take the ball out of bounds, and you saw a fan behind him heckling him and just smiling, knowing he's getting to him. When Kyrie's not turning around, he was like that, and rolling his eyes, shaking his head. And the guy knew he heard him, so he was chirping some more. And then all of a sudden he was like this, Kyrie's like this, making fun of him. But he turned it out, man. He almost single-handedly beat Boston.
Beat him by himself, yeah.
He almost did. Again, if Kevin Durant had a C+ game, they win that by double digits. Right? And I think Brooklyn may get them the second game, the game 2, because I don't think Kevin Durant's gonna have a back-to-back horrible games. But we all know that Kyrie's gonna get fined, right? We know that he's going to pay some type of penance. And this is, he's due to the fact that he's a repeat offender. He's going to get, he makes gazillion dollars a year. So it's going to be like chicken feed, but for the amount, it's going to be a lot for the fine itself, the amount itself of the fine. Look, I understand where Kyrie's coming from, but as I always say, unless a fan slurs you, or in this case calls him the N-word, or talks about his family, it is what it is. Fans are going to get to you. I mean, that's if you're a professional athlete, you got to take the good with the bad, right? You got to take that, especially in the high stakes environment as the playoffs. In this case, I mean, because check this out. You don't think people said stuff to Shaq?
Most definitely.
You don't think people said stuff to Reggie Miller? I mean, hell, Spike Lee, right? Comes of course. To mind. The bad boy Pistons, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, when he would go back to Boston to play Larry Bird Celtics in the finals. You don't think he heard some stuff? James Worthy, Dominique Wilkins. Hell,
Yeah.
especially Charles Barkley. You don't think
Charles
he heard
Barkley.
some stuff?
Yeah, but see, that's where
Allen
I differ
Iverson
from
even?
you, right? That's where I differ from you. Because
Okay.
even in those instances, those dudes said stuff back. Hell,
Right.
Charles jumped up in the stands.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He spat on a kid. He spat on it.
Yeah.
He hit spin on a fan, but he missed him, hit a little girl. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's where I disagree with you. God, in this Houdini era of friends, how many of us have them? Let me go play with my boys. There's no true, real rivalries anymore in the NBA, in my opinion, era. We need this. We need a black hat dude coming out there and being an antagonist to the fans, not just to the team, but to the fans too. And who none better in this situation than Kyrie Irving? This is the same Bama, the year after being traded to the Brooklyn Nets, comes out with Sage during the preseason to get rid of the evil spirits in the TD Garden. In the preseason? This Bama here, that relationship that he had with the Celtics and their fan base was contentious. If he did that in the preseason. So yes, I didn't mind it. Now, what I do mind is the response and the reaction that he gave the reporter and tried to be very blasé about it and tried to brush it off and not wanting to answer the question. If you're not going to answer the question, don't be a jerk about it. Just say, okay, I don't even want to talk about it, dude. But he did start out by saying all he wanted to do was talk about basketball. But that reporter was doing his job by trying to get an answer to his question. But instead of being a jerk about it, he could have came to him a little bit different than what he did. But I don't mind it. I don't. Because, of course, there have been instances where words have been exchanged between players and guys on the front row. Hell, there's a bet going on right now between Karl Anthony Towns and John Morant's daddy on who gonna wear who jersey, whoever loses the series. I mean that's between fans, but I know that there's words being exchanged. There's most definitely being words being exchanged with your boy Pat Beverly and the fans over there. And God, I just said the team that they were playing against in Memphis right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't mind it. I love it. It takes me back to the old days where that used to happen, and we no longer have this kumbaya moment of the players just sitting back and taking what the fans say. Nah, I'm gonna say some stuff back to you. Now, the
and I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I know it sounds contradictory. I don't have a problem with a player talking.
I know your concern.
I'm a petty guy.
Probably. Let me guess. Your concern is more so being a detriment to the team and being fined because of it.
Yes, I mean, he could talk Kyrie could talk as much shit back to him as those dumbass Boston fans as he wants. I don't have a problem with him going back. I'm as petty as I am. After he was making those big shots, I'll be turning around. I'm like, look, I'll be backpedaling like this. Look at me. And then I'll bring them over to them and say, you know what? I'm gonna hit your boys with a step back three, just like Larry Bird did to other players. Yeah, I'm gonna do it to the fans. I'm gonna every instance now step back three. I'm gonna hit another, and then do exactly that, and just look at him, a little kiss at him, or do what Gilbert Arenas once did at when he played the Lakers, and then he cooked them. I forgot how many points he had.
If it was with the Wizards, he put up 60. I remember that one.
And then hit the game-winning shot. The dagger rather, and he turned to the LA crowd and
bowed
and walked his ass back to the huddle. I love that. I love that. I'm all for the petty. Just don't get your ass do anything that'll get your ass fired and distract from the great game that he had, that Kyrie had. Again, imagine if they held on. Not even Kevin Durant bringing a C+ game. Imagine if they were to hold Boston for getting their final shot off, which was awesome. We saw Jason Tatum just spin around away from Kyrie, hit the layup as time expired. If they held him, Kyrie could talk all this shit he wants. He stole game one on his own Boston's arch rival's floor in front of those fans, scored 39 points and single-handedly took game one. And can talk all the shit he wants.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. And he was talking shit back while he was.
Oh yeah.
Remember, he like I said before, he single-handedly brought Brooklyn from being down double digits to taking a lead and threatened to force them away late in the fourth quarter. He was cooking them.
Yeah.
Again, 12 or 20 from the field, 60%, 6 or 10 from three. He was cooking them. He was cooking them.
Yeah, my question is, will he be capable of sustaining that throughout an entire series, which he probably will. But of course, Boston is most definitely going to make adjustments same way that Kevin Durant will make adjustments too. My only thing is, I just wish he would go ahead and make adjustments and take a brush to his hair.
Or lotion to his legs, one.
Something, please.
I'll give KD this. He's one of those brothers who really just wants to, who doesn't give a damn about anything. He just wants to, he don't care if his edges are bad, his line is bad. He don't care if his BDBs in his head, all over his head. He don't care if his skin looked like a lizard. He doesn't care. He
don't care. He just wants to hoop. Yeah.
And he'll probably hoop a lot in game two. I'm sure he looked at the film. I'm sure talked to Steve Nash and Jacques Vaughn, I think is on that staff. I'm sure he talked to a lot of those cats and just say, and Kyrie probably as well, and said, look, this ain't gonna happen again.
Now, there was one play, and I completely missed it, where KD had one of his jump shots blocked. How often does that happen? Yes.
I think that was was that either Jason Tatum or Al Horford, because they both switched on the entire game. They both took turns guarding. And Mark Smart too. Mark Smart took a few turns guarding.
That is insane.
Yeah. So Boston's tough. Again, Boston is tough.
Yeah.
And they got lucky in game one. So it means to be saying, if you're Brooklyn, how the psyche's going to be. Are they going to come out pumped, say, hey, one half of our superstar tandem had a bad game. We only lost by one at the shot at the buzzer. Or would they come out deflated? Yeah. Or if you're Boston, I mean, you have to be giddy if you're Boston, because you could have easily lost that one. So you're going to take a win wherever you can get, just make the adjustments and just have that in your back pocket. So that win in your back pocket. So it's too bad we have to wait till Wednesday night for game two. I can't stand the TV contrast to have. But anyway, the point is that this should be a great series, rather. And again, I understand Kyrie's frustrations. I love the pettiness. Just don't do anything that would get your ass fired. No. Because the last thing, all of them. But I was going to say the last thing you want to give a troll is knowledge that he could control you. Most definitely. Because definitely. Because like Shannon Sharp, he liked to credit his grandfather saying stuff, but he always says his grandfather always used to tell him, don't let people know what makes you tick, because they know what it takes to wind you up. Yeah. But I was going to say, or finish it up with this, I truly believe every series in the first round is going to be a good one, with the exception of course, Golden State and Denver. Now you get Steph Curry back, and it looks like he's going to be 100% come game two. And if that's the case, that might be a sweep. And Phoenix and New Orleans too. I think that's a one-sided series.
I know exactly. Those two series right there need to be one-sided completely.
Yeah. So there you go. Again, speaking of one-sided series, maybe another one tonight with Toronto and Philly. I thought Toronto would at least make it better like it did earlier, but ever since, let me check the score right quick. I'm about to drink my damn water. Let's see. Oh God, this is even worse. The Philly's up 95-71 at the start of the fourth quarter. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, for those who've been watching the game, when Toronto went up 11-2 to start the game, they have been outscored by 33 points. Yeah.
93-60.
From that point
Yeah,
to where they are
93-60
right
is
now.
ridiculous. Yeah.
God, that may be a sweep.
You know what? I anticipate Toronto, of course, being extremely competitive in game 3.
Sure.
If they don't take game 3, it's most definitely going to be a sweep.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, a gentleman's sweep, because I don't think Toronto, as well coached as they are, I don't think they have the horses to keep up with Philly. I don't think they have the horses to keep up with Embiid, Joel Embiid, nor James Harden. I don't think they have the horses. Let's see, because they have Maxey. Even Maxey is going off. He has 18 points right now.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, right? The one thing that I was critical of the 76ers for, with the addition of James Harden, I seem to be wrong with it so far within this series, is the play of their young cats of Maxey and Thibault.
Yeah.
The way that both of them have looked so far in the first 2 games, they have looked phenomenal. And I thought that was what the 76ers would need to be competitive in the playoffs. That if they couldn't get an all-star effort out of James Harden, they will most definitely have to get improved play from their young players, and that's exactly what they're getting right now.
Now, what's his name? The other guy, Tobias Harris, has made a shot. They're now down 97 to something. So anyway, that's nasty. Okay,
yeah.
Moving right along. We're going to skip to the HBCU segment sports segment, because a couple of things that garnered our attention. A, Howard is leaving the MEAC, Howard University. The Bites are leaving the MEAC, where it's been a founding member, right? In what, 1970, 71, 72?
1970, yeah.
1970, to go to the Colonial Athletic Association, if I have that correct, along with join the likes of Hampton, that's already there, and soon to be our beloved North Carolina A&T Aggies. Even though we'll still be there for football this season, then join football next year. But so that would make it 3 HBCUs, and a conference that will include that includes UNC Wilmington, Elon University, Monmouth, William and Mary, and College of Charleston, if I'm not mistaken.
College of Charleston, Richmond.
So that cuts down on little travel until I have to go up north. But that's for another time. But
yeah, that was the plan. The plan was to go ahead and have divisional play in all sports.
Sure.
And I still haven't sat down and done the math yet, because what I want to do is compare what the travel will be in the CAA within divisions versus what the travel would have been in the MEAC had they done the same thing and gone into divisions. The whole beef was that they didn't have 12 members, and that was the thing restricting them from moving on to divisions, where oddly enough, they had already moved into divisions with the majority of their sports, with the exception of football and basketball. And I think at one point they even moved into divisions with basketball too. But I'm like, if you just go ahead and do it with the 10, like the SWAC, who was already doing it with 10, hell, they could have done it when they had the 13 members and chose not to do it. I'm sorry, not 13, but 11. When they had the 11 members, they could have done it then. They chose not to. And then, of course, Hampton and Savannah State would leave, thus reducing the amount of members. And they just said, you know what, hell with it. We're not going to go and move into the divisions. And now they are where they are right now. And the CAA is about to do what I felt as though that the MEAC should have done years ago. But I digress. But before we get to that, I want to go ahead and announce that Otis Hewley, I'm learning who Otis Hewley is myself. He was announced today as the new head basketball coach over at Alabama A&M. States here, a veteran developer of talent at the high school, collegiate, and professional and international and Olympic level. Hewley is a well-known figure at essentially every level of basketball. Used to coach at Wallace Community College in Selma. Was an assistant over at Wright State. And also was an assistant over with the Memphis Grizzlies. So he has experience at all levels, and also coached the Nigerian team. So he most definitely has experience in all levels. It's going to be very interesting to see with another addition to the SWAC men's basketball side at the head coaching spot. Of course, we have Mo Williams move over to Jackson State.
Correct.
We had Tony Matlock replace Mo over at Alabama State, and now with Hewley over at Alabama A&M. So it's going to be very interesting to see what direction this conference goes into. But to your point, with Howard going over to the CAA, this is something that has been rumored for years now.
You mentioned that in the podcast past. You mentioned that in the past. Yeah.
And then it started to become a little bit more of a conversation when when A&T, Bethune-Cookman, and Florida A&M all decided to leave the MEAC a couple of years ago. Now it's becoming a little bit more of a thing. It's announced that that's the direction that they're leaning into. Allegedly, I don't know how much truth it is to it, but the current Howard president, President Frederick, seems to have been, I guess, the one person or the person who was anti them leaving the MEAC because, of course, his role that he plays within the conference. But he is set to retire in 2024, which leads me to believe that Howard will probably be leaving to join the CAA either in 2023 or 2024. And if that is the case, MEAC, I don't know who's going to fill that spot in the MEAC. It's already been said before.
That's the next question.
Right?
Yeah.
What do they do? It's already been said before that Bowie State does not want to move up to Division I. Virginia State also said that they weren't interested, but things could have changed since then. Right. They're also, of course, recording both Chicago State for their basketball program, and of course the Division II Kentucky State. Okay. But
the Marauders.
the
Thoroughbreds. I'm sorry, the Marauders.
The Thoroughbreds. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But to kind of play off of current Commissioner Sergeant Steele's comment about North Carolina A&T, they may have to assimilate and get them a couple of PWIs to join the MEAC there in order for them to at least be viable. Now, being that they're not necessarily competing for a playoff spot, or I should say an FCS championship, they probably won't need that 7 teams, right? So they can go ahead and continue to compete in the Celebration Bowl. My question is going to be, though, is how viable and how competitive. Well, I mean, they're losing Howard. Howard hasn't been a threat to go to the Celebration Bowl, but how will the MEAC be perceived now as a 5-team conference potentially still playing in the Celebration Bowl if they can't seem to get another football team to replace them? What will be the move to help them out in football? I can't seem to think of any viable options at this moment. Everyone's throwing out ideas. Of course, a potential merger the same way that the WAC and the ASUN did with their agreement this past season. Will the MEAC potentially do that? Will the SWAC potentially agree to that? Or will they end up going a completely different route? We're trying to fill out who participates in the Celebration Bowl, or will that continue to be a thing once the MEAC, or if and when the MEAC drops down to 5 football programs?
Well, let me ask you, speaking of the Celebration Bowl, that puts that in the precarious situation right now. Yeah. Because ESPN, that's the baby. Remember that, right? Now, if you're ESPN, see what's happening to the MEAC. Do you accelerate the process of bringing in Chicago State, bringing in similar to what the CWA did with Shawan, bring in PWIs into the MEAC? I know the fans probably aren't going to like that. I know the alumni aren't going to like that. But when it comes to dollars and cents, if it makes sense, you got to get the dollars to do what you got to do to get those dollars. So, but it's on another front is this, especially if you're South Carolina State. You look at what's going on in the SWAC right now.
Uh-huh.
They sitting on top of gold mine, realizing that with gold mine they're on right now, and they're slowly but surely chipping away at it. The SWAC is, and yourself kind of say, you Buddy Pugh, right? You got your football program. You're taking down the likes of Jackson State last year, and putting players putting players in the league left and right, right? Led by one Darius Leonard. He was a rookie of the year at one point. Would you persuade the administration to holler at the SWAC? Would you want to say sweet nothings in the SWAC's ears? Give South Carolina State. I mean, from a competitive standpoint, it would be juicy, but it'll probably be a death knell to the MEAC if that would have happened too. It's like basically the MEAC is at a crossroads right now.
Most definitely.
And you have your bigger brands split over the last 3 years. How would be in the latest one? So if you keep a score at home, FAMU, you lost brands such as FAMU. Well, first, you lost Hampton. Right? Then you lost A&T. And this athletic programs and engineering programs. Then after that, if that wasn't bad enough, you lost a bigger brand in FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. And now you're going to lose another major brand in Howard. That's 5 damn programs.
Well, Scott, 6. You forget about Savannah State leaving.
Oh, that's right.
And dropping down to the Division II level. So yes, that is 6 programs. In what, 5 years? Yeah, it's very problematic. But the one option that is out there where North Carolina A&T Athletic Director Earl Hilton kind of informed us about the conversation of an HBCU super conference is out there. So what could be done is that the remaining MEAC conferences, something that, Deion Sanders has already been talking about, they can go ahead and potentially end up starting the super conference.
Kind of what has been rumored to happen on the FBS level, with the likes of Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Florida, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech, maybe North Carolina, then with Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, maybe Nebraska. In other words, and include USC as well, Oregon, UCLA, possibly. Maybe some people from Big 12. Oklahoma and Texas are already going to SEC.
Yeah.
Maybe UC, maybe Cincinnati wants to gets going in the Big 12. And Baylor, maybe along with Baylor. In other words, have a super conference that's for big boy football only.
Yeah. Now, I don't know exactly how realistic it would be, but my guess is that, of course, the teams that currently make up the MEAC would be this Eastern Division. And then, of course, the teams that make up the East and the SWAC would be the Central Division, or there may be a little bit of realignment, who knows? And then, of course, the teams that comprise of the West make up the West. And that would be the way that I would see an 18-team super conference working in this scenario. The thing is, though, is how realistic and how viable would it be? That's where I end up scratching my head and trying to figure out how. But the thing is, again, if HBCU ADs are talking about it, it's a conversation that's being had. I know fans were tossing this around as some sort of Marvel Comics what if, but no, this what if is, I gotta throw them jabs in there. But it seems like something that the higher ups are most definitely discussing at this moment.
Right. And there's another idea that's been bandied about is I saw this on social media, I think on the SWAC Central Facebook page, is the SWAC working with another PWI conference in the FCS level.
Okay.
And one of those that's favored is the Ivy League. Because the Ivy League, like the SWAC, does not have an automatic bid for the FCS playoffs.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot of people in the SWAC want to focus on academics, similar to what the Ivy League does. So yes, your expression. So basically, like maybe work with them in terms of football scheduling, maybe basketball. I would prefer them schedule games against the whatever conference North Dakota State's in.
Oh, the
Missouri Valley. Yeah, Missouri Valley.
Yeah, Missouri Valley. Yeah.
Yeah. But the schedule against those guys in Montana. I think Montana's Big Sky. But
Montana's Big Sky.
With South Dakota State, North Dakota, South Dakota, those 4 universities alone, right? Those are amongst your powers, as well as I think Northern Illinois is in there as well. But I would prefer something like that if you want visibility, because you get visibility scheduling games against the likes of the Ivy League, like Jackson State at Harvard or Princeton coming down to play Southern, some shit like that. But I would prefer seeing something where Jackson's where the brands, the powers, Jackson State, FAMU, Southern, Grambling, play the likes of through the rotation of North Dakota State, University of North Dakota, South Dakota State, University of South Dakota, Northern Illinois, things like that. Just have like a kind of similar to what the ACC and the SEC has at the end of the season, the Chick-fil-A Classic.
Yeah, I get you on that. My concern on that though is I want to go ahead and have these schools punch within their weight class.
Sure.
And I'm gonna go ahead and be real and say the MVCF, well, the MVC is a different weight class than SWAC right now.
Sure.
The SWAC is having issues competing against the best in the MEAC.
Yeah.
The MEAC.
Yeah.
They're not competing with the best in the MVC right now. There's no way in the world. They most definitely are not in the same class as North Dakota State. And being in a situation where they went to face those teams will most definitely expose them. And the whole concept of iron sharpens iron, I am not a believer of that. If you don't believe me, go see Rutgers and see what the hell they're doing in the Big 10 right now.
Well, including Maryland Terrapins, unfortunately. I know your boy Loxley's trying to turn things around.
He's trying, but
Maryland's experiencing that too.
I'll hold my breath, right? And I'll probably be as blue as my cat right now when they go ahead and somehow turn it around. Right. I love them, I do, but my God, I'm gonna try to do something. Yeah. Do something. Y'all just laying there, turtle. Do something. But it's ironic that you bring up the Ivy League because we'll end up talking about them in a little bit. But I don't know. The distance between the Ivy League and the SWAC and having them travel, and again, it would be intriguing for that to happen. My question is, of course, would that be something that the Ivy League would want to be a part of in terms of regular season? Yeah. They've already let it be known that would be something they would be interested in as a postseason game because they saw how much they saw that there's money to be made in that situation, and of course,
and that's a good idea. Hey, that's a good idea too, brother. I didn't think of that. Why not?
Yeah,
especially if the MEAC goes to the wayside. Why not?
Yeah,
because again, the Ivy League in the SWAC, and I think maybe a couple other leagues, do not have an automatic entry.
No.
Into the FCS playoffs. Why not?
It's just those 3 conferences.
Right. So why not? Why not have something similar? I don't know what the hell you're going to call it. Maybe something. I don't know. But have something like that.
Yeah.
That would draw some eyeballs. That would.
It would.
That would draw a lot of eyeballs, actually.
Yeah.
Come to think about it. So you heard that the Ivy League would be interested from a postseason standpoint?
I would say that there are a couple of coaches that have expressed interest in having some sort of postseason setup similar to the Celebration Bowl,
Mhm.
if not competing in a Celebration Bowl-esque type game, if not
Sure.
competing in the Celebration Bowl itself. So yeah, there has been some discussion where a couple of the coaches over there in Ivy League have said, "Hey, this is a wonderful idea. Why not us?"
Could you imagine the likes of Princeton, Harvard, or Yale being in Atlanta? They travel. They got
They
the
do.
money to. They got the endowment.
They
got the
most
money
definitely
to.
have the money to do it. They most
Yeah.
definitely have the money to do
So
it. Yes.
I don't think it'd be a problem. But that would be a great idea. Again, why not? Especially
Yeah.
if MEAC goes by the wayside. Why not?
Yeah.
It makes
the
too
one
much
thing I
sense,
know
right?
It does, right? But the one thing I know the SWAC fans don't want me to say right now is that'll just be another conference that you guys will end up getting beaten down by in Atlanta. Until you Bamas can show me otherwise.
Oh, okay.
I want you to.
It's facts. You're
God
speaking
knows.
facts, though. You're speaking straight facts. But that's funny.
God knows I want y'all to show me otherwise. I went into Atlanta in December thinking, hey, this will be the game that happens.
Right.
Psych my mind.
South Carolina State just put a hurting on Jackson. Oh my God. You think Buddy Pugh didn't have those guys ready to play?
Oh my God. But yeah, I digress. Let me not sit here and talk bad about the SWAC because I got somebody else I want to talk bad about.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
we're gonna move on. We're gonna wrap this segment and probably, well, unless you have any tidbits, which I think
those are the only big tidbits I want to go ahead and share along with what I'm about to say right now.
Okay, so we're closing out on this thing. We're closing out on this thing.
Yeah.
I found I was, screwing around like I always do online. And so I was in one of the SWAC groups. And I happened to run across on my timeline Bomani Jones show on HBO called Game Theory, which I've been wanting to check out for the longest time. Because I agree with a lot of what this brother says. I'm a fan of his for ESPN, especially clapping back on those ignorant folks of a certain hue that's been coming out at him, likes of Michael Smith, Jamel Hill when they were at ESPN, and a few others. I forget the sister's name, the host of Weekend. She's cute as hell. She's from Atlanta. I forget. But anyway, point being is that he had a segment called "Why." You pretty much was explaining why top sports recruits are choosing HBCUs and his thoughts on it. And it started out with a funny skit with a young brother at Rosa Parks High School having these hats on the table, and he's going through, and he had his brothers there with him, and his white girlfriend, which I thought was hilarious, and just had the Alabama hat on the table, the Oklahoma hat on the table, and ends up like fooling around them to choose HBCUs, and the only person who supported him was his militant uncle. Everybody else was mad at him. So even his white girlfriend was mad at him. But anyway, which I thought was funny. But there were some points that Bomani Jones brought up, and I know you have a lot of thoughts on it, so I'm gonna let you drive the segment, and I'll just chime in here and there. But I found that he had an interesting point of view on this stuff, being that he's a graduate of HBCU himself, of Clark, Atlanta. So he pretty much knows his shit. But I know you've been wanting to talk about this, man. So I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm gonna sit back and drink this water. So as they like to quote what's his name, Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby.
Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paraphrase some of the statements that stood out to me during his segment. He started out with, let me remind you about the essence of college sports, which is basically taking money from people who do the work and giving it to the overseers and supervisors, basically calling the NCAA a neo-plantation mentality. Now, what's interesting, because he feels as though that with the HBCUs looking to get top talent, he believes that the HBCUs are looking to move into that direction, and says that basically HBCUs do not need to become the new slave owners. And even if they wanted to, of course, do you think that Massa would sit back and let us mule kick them in football? Which I'm like, you know what? No, they won't. You want to know why I believe it won't happen? Go look at Florida A&M and the University of Miami back in 1979. The last time that Florida A&M beat a Division I program and beat them in Coral Gables. As a matter of fact, that's the last time that University of Miami has lost to an a program that is not an FBS program.
Okay.
The last time. And I truly believe if you go ahead and watch the U, they kind of hint on it a little bit when they talk about that season of 79.
Oh,
where they
the
went
3rd
5
for
and
30,
6.
yeah. 3rd for 30, yeah.
They talk about that season where they went 5 and 6. One of those games, or the game, in my opinion, was that Florida A&M loss. And they were like, you know what? We got to make a decision here. Are we going to go ahead and end up having a program that loses to bad programs, or are we going to revamp it? And there was someone who said, hey, let's go ahead and try to revamp this thing. And they haven't looked back since. So there's no way in the world. And I keep telling people, yes, for those who want to see HBCUs achieve greatness and continue to get great players, there's no way in the world we're going to catch the likes of the Power 5 conference.
And when I'm not expecting them to.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
So, I just thought it was weird he brought that up, but I digress, right? So he's saying that, that as of right now, they're not fully grasping the purpose of HBCUs and what they could and should be doing. He's basically saying that HBCUs shouldn't be focused on beating. But the example that he gave was he doesn't believe that a Division II program should be focused on beating an FBS program. There is no HBCU D2 program that is focused on that. Hell, there is no FCS HBCU that is focused on beating a Power 5 conference program. Right. A Group of 5 program probably, but not a Power 5. Let's be realistic, Bomani. I just want you to do that at least with that aspect. He's basically said, what's best for HBCUs, it shouldn't be what's best for the athletics department and development department and marketing. It should be what's best for their students, which I'm going to get to in a point in a little bit later on. Just basically, trying to turn HBCUs into a football factory will end up just creating another Rutgers. I kind of touched on that before. With Rutgers moving over to the Big 12, chasing that money. And I kind of spoke, with the Big 10, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the amount of teams, which basically it's 14 now. But yeah, with the Big 10, with them moving over to the Big 10 and chasing that money with the TV money. And I've already said before, I have concerns about HBCUs doing just that. And primarily that being those of Hampton, A&T, and Howard moving over to the CAA, where I've talked about how, as of right now, their budgets, fiscally, they're not competitive enough to compete with what's going on in the CAA. And I don't know if they're going to be capable of generating enough revenue annually to do so.
Right.
They have hopes to do so. I just don't know if they can do so, but I digress. Basically what he says is that, remember, he says that basically that football programs or college programs are basically neo-plantations, but he also said that white colleges are doing a good job of getting us, as in Black players, into pro football. So this whole thing of attempting not to have them go to or be on a plantation or go to an HBCU plantation is a bad idea, but it's still a good idea for them to be on the regular plantation. That just seems rather contradictory to me, Bomani. I still don't get it, but it is what it is. It says basically big-time college football and basketball are the rare places where white people are invested in Black students' futures. Maybe so, but there are also instances where they're not invested and they don't even care about these Black kids' futures. They just care about what they're capable and willing to do for these programs and make them more money. But again, I digress. So he basically said we might want to hold on to that by basically continuing to send these kids to these plantations. maybe we should, and this is a quote for him, maybe we should encourage them to go to Alabama or whatever, the same way we encourage our smart Black kids to go to the likes of a Harvard medical program. Again, it makes me cringe when I hear him say that. He basically says that, HBCUs should use the Ivy League as a model. Remember when you said brought the Ivy League before?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he basically feels as though that HBCUs should follow the Ivy League model, basically using academics as a way to attract athletes instead of spending money on sports in the hopes that it would eventually benefit the students. Here's a couple of things that Bomani doesn't understand. First and foremost, is it's been documented that with the success of the Celebration Bowl, whoever participates, whoever wins the Celebration Bowl, they get their enrollment increases. Matter of fact, thanks in part to the Celebration Bowl, A&T has become the largest HBCU in the country. It's kind of a coincidence that their enrollment went up when they went 4 for 5 in the Celebration Bowl. I'm sorry, when they went 4 for 4 in the Celebration Bowl.
We never lost the Celebration Bowl, right?
We never lost. Never lost. Let me go ahead and make sure I remind people of that. Never lost. So when we won those 4 Celebration Bowls, our enrollment went up and we became the largest HBCU program in the nation.
Right.
So it just happens to be that athletics can be a benefit to the academia program. And because of the enrollment going up, we've seen academia achieve improvements because of that. Case in point, the new engineering building that they spent over $100 million on right now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Perfect timing, right? I'm not saying that Celebration Bowl is an attributor to it, but I'm saying the coincidence, your enrollment goes up, you get the attention, you get the money, you get donations. It just happens to be, it is what it is, but I digress. So, Bomani wants to go ahead and use the whole Ivy League as a model. Let's talk about the differences in between the Ivy League and HBCUs. First and foremost, let's start with giving. This is coming from an article from 2019, where it says that Harvard ranked second in the Ivy League in terms of giving at an alumni giving rate of 33.1%. I've come on this show multiple times and talked about how HBCUs as a whole don't even give back at a double-digit rate.
Right.
So yes, you want us to follow this model. You want us to follow this model of Ivy Leagues, and I also get the point. And let me make sure I point this out too, where he talks about how important it is for HBCUs to try to generate revenue and try to get money and increase endowments and giving, right?
Right.
I completely agree with him on that. The thing is, and this is something that he brought up, there aren't a lot of Black billionaires out there. Hell, there are only 2 Black billionaires that went to an HBCU. It's comparison to the almost 200 billionaires that went to Harvard alone. So we're out here trying. You want us to mimic a model that we're not even close to, dog? How is that even possible? You know what I'm about to say? Come on, son.
He got the co-op son again. Look.
Exactly, right? And also, you're talking about us trying to mimic the Ivy League with what they do athletically. We can't even match what they spend on an annual basis in athletics. Harvard has been averaging $27 million, where HBCUs are on D1 HBCUs are averaging 10.7, somewhere under 11 million annually.
Mm.
We don't even make the same amount of money, dog, but you want us to follow that model. And what, you want us to go ahead and try to use academia to bring in these smart students to play sports? That's not going to happen, because to your point, in terms of pushing these kids to go to Harvard Medical, those same smart kids are going to go to the Ivy League. Why would they want to come to an HBCU if you're talking about trying to push them? But the one thing that your mom did say, Bomani, which is the reason why these kids should be going to an HBCU, regardless of whether or not you think they're going to be this whole neo-plantation type deal or not, is the fact that they'll be learning Black culture.
Yep.
And they'll be around those that will love them and support them. The biggest thing, the one you're talking about supporting students, hell, forget about, yes, the money is awesome. The money is most definitely needed in terms of a learning standpoint. You know what's number two? Being nurtured. The same things you talked about in terms
especially
of
these days with 45 being in office and creating this environment that eventually creates fears in my heart of seeing my son, really because of age, he's 12 now, to a PWI. Because it was tough enough for me being at NC State, and that was before this motherfucker came into office years later. So I feel on that. I feel on that point. You got to nurture these kids. I mean, it's more important now, arguably more important now than ever in our history, to be honest with you.
Yes,
because of what's been happening socially, but continue.
Exactly, right? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about sending these kids to these Power 5 conference programs, a lot of them that are in these small white towns where, of course, you're going to be the Black in that town. In a lot of instances, most of us coming from urban areas are not going to be comfortable being the Black in town. And in some instances, may not know how to act by being the Black in town. So why not go somewhere where they're going to be treated and being treated and loved on and being comfortable in their surroundings? You just don't want to see HBCUs have this plantation type mentality. And then you're also concerned about, the goings on HBCU campuses that I also agree, Bomani, are issues. When you talk about, yes, HBCUs are underfunded. We already know that. Oh, that's the other thing about following this Ivy League model that's going to be damn near impossible for these HBCUs. The MEAC and the SWAC is littered with state programs, whereas the Ivy League is nothing but private.
Correct.
Duh. The money which we are, if you go ahead, I forget where the article comes from, but there's an article that was released a few months ago that talked about the monies that was withheld from state institutions, from state HBCUs.
Yeah.
So it's already bad enough that we're already being underfunded and understaffed, but we're having state funds withheld from us. We can't follow that model if you don't have that kind of money. And then, of course, alumni bases ain't giving back the way it should be. We don't have the billionaires to give back the way that these Ivy League schools give back. And yes, it was fun to have Jeff Bezos' ex give out $500 million to HBCUs, but again, it's only going to the top programs. Mississippi Valley State ain't getting that dough. Alcorn State ain't getting that dough. Morgan State, well, you know what? I'm not even going to say Morgan State. Coppin State might not be getting that money. I'm just saying, I know there are a lot of.
I know Elizabeth City
ain't getting that dough.
Is not. They're not getting it. I think Fayetteville State is. I'm not sure. I know A&T is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Winston State is.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, yeah, I feel.
All of them aren't getting this money. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I understand that you don't want to see anyone else make money off the backs of these little kids, and you want to see our HBCUs improve in terms of infrastructure and in terms of being staffed, as do I.
Right.
But you also need to understand, Bomani, that the money that comes from athletics has nothing to do with who gets hired in the financial aid department or who the university hires to go ahead. The case that you brought up with the housing situation at Howard University, the money from athletics doesn't go there. You know that, Bomani. Or if you don't, you need to. Come on, man. I need you to do better than that. I do. But again, when you brought up the Rutgers thing, that stuck a crawl. That hit home with me a little bit especially as it pertains to these programs moving over to the CAA. And I'm highly concerned about that because that thing will most definitely end up playing itself out. But if you're talking about what's going on within the SWAC and within the MEAC, and most definitely on the D2 levels at the SEAC and the CIAA and Langston and Lincoln and UDC, they're not trying to create football factories. They're trying to have competitive athletics and have these kids graduate. Oh my God, Bomani. All because you're allowing what one man is basically saying, and I understand that potentially the actions of Hugh Jackson and even potentially of Eddie George, what they may be doing may have you believing that they're out here trying to create these football factories. There's the only way you're creating these football factories if you're a Power 5 conference school. No one else is creating football factories and making money off the backs of these kids. Right. Now, do I believe that these athletic programs should be getting more money for the type of revenue that they can generate? Yes, I do. But they're not football factories, they're not basketball factories, nor will they become that. And then you also have to understand, Bomani, that collegiate athletics is more than just goddamn football and basketball. Yeah. What about the track and field team that goes out there and competes? What about the bowling team that goes out there and competes? Tennis, golf, swimming, lacrosse. Those programs shouldn't exist.
Well, I speak to our track team, at A&T's track team. I mean,
who had a wonderful showing at the Florida Relays this past weekend. Wonderful.
Right.
But you're concerned about HBCUs turning into these football factories and turning these kids into slaves. I know what it is, Bomani. You want us to try to be like the Ivy League and have us out here struggling because at your time, at Clark Atlanta, you never saw a good football team while you was there.
Oh, Lord.
Hell,
oh,
as
God.
a matter of fact, Clark Atlanta has only had 5 winning seasons since 1991. And when I say winning seasons, I'm talking about 6 wins.
Wow. You went there on them.
So is that what it is, Bomani? You want us to go ahead and be out here struggling. Nah, dog, I want these dudes to go out there and compete. I want them to go out there and have a chance to do what they did when they went out there, when A&T went out there and shocked the world and beat ECU, when Howard went out there and beat UNLV. I'm not asking them to go out there and beat Georgia. I want to see them compete on the FCS level. That's what I want them to do. But at the same time, I don't want to see them fiscally stretch themselves to do so.
Well, you know what? Normally, I come back with a retort or two. The fact that when Bomani mentioned about not having to stand like divert the resources to some of these departments, so that you won't be staying your ass in line.
I agree with that. I'm with him on that.
You know, and yeah, I mean, I remember signing up for summer classes when I was in grad school at A&T. And having to, not summer, fall. And sitting in Corbett, standing in Corbett, those long lines, those stations, especially fucking financial aid and account. Because that one word that starts with V might as well be a 4-letter word. Validation.
Validation. Dude, I've heard that my entire matriculation at North Carolina A&T. Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, you came in like enroll because validation is for those folks who outside of HBCU culture or A&T culture for that matter. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you have a balance from last year, from the previous semester or previous summer session, whatever, it's not satisfied, hadn't been met, you're not validated. So what does it have to do with
not even that. If you don't have any money on your books, you ain't validated.
There you go. So what does that have to do with financial aid? You go to make sure your funding is taking care of financial aid to pay for your schooling. So even if you up to date from last year, you gotta be accounted for the current semester.
Yeah.
Hence the word validated.
And they don't say validation, they say validate. Are you validated?
Yeah. And then that's the other thing too. He's talking about following this Ivy League model. I'm gonna go ahead and guarantee you the amount of kids that are on financial aid at HBCUs, especially these state programs, most definitely dwarfs the amount of kids that are on financial aid at the Ivy League level. That's another thing they won't be able to replicate, dog. And you're talking about trying to follow that model and trying to get the money. Yes, I want the money. I want the leaders of HBCUs who, again, aren't the same leaders that deal with athletics, but at the same time, they do have their hand in it a little bit. But I need them to figure out ways to generate more revenue for our institutions, or all across the board. That's both for academia and for athletics. Because oddly enough, which is weird, that giving from HBCUs, a lot of times they're not, it's happening based upon how the school is doing athletically.
Right. Look at the University of Miami in the 80s. Their enrollment jumped up big time after they won their first national title, and then they kept going up. And you recall for 30 for 30, when that stupid ass president got in Jimmy Johnson's way, and tried to make it more about the school than about the program.
Yeah.
Which helped increase the enrollment, which helped get the additional funding. It goes hand in hand. Many people don't understand with the role that athletics play at a typical institution, right? Because I live in Cincinnati. So look at Central State, for example, where they didn't have their football program for years. Their enrollment was down. I don't know the version of bankruptcy. I'm not going to see all that, but they were losing money. And the football program is back. I don't know if enrollment's up or whatever, but I'm sure it is. But how, I'm not sure about how much. But they're no longer in financial trouble that I know. You know, so you gotta have the way the world is now, man. No matter if you're HBCU, Ivy League school, like Alabama, whoever. If you don't have a football program, if you don't have a basketball program, especially a football program, if you don't have all those programs, you're just a little ass college. And I mean that from an enrollment standpoint. And because no one wants to go, why go to a school that doesn't have a football program? Why go to school to a school that doesn't have a prominent or at least a major sports program like a football or basketball or I'll say this, soccer or baseball? Why? So you can get your learn on. That's the thing but the thing is that's few and far between in terms of students that do. Yeah, how many students will give a damn about learning? We have to be realistic. Right. Yeah. How many kids are going to give a damn about learning than going to the game? Right. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I just found it extremely contradictory. He's talking about being concerned about the welfare of the students, but yet you don't want to send a Black kid to an HBCU where you feel as though that their welfare will be addressed. Right. I got you. Make it make sense, Bomani, please. All right. And on that note, guess we can wrap up this program. Anyway, while Dwayne is still mad, please check him out. I see his backdrop there, the yard, HBCU.com. Please check out his great work there. Also, herosports.com talks about FCS Athletics contains HBCU, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So check them out there as well. You see the website here, www.theclowntimes.net. Also the merch, CatholicPress.com, search for Clown Time Sports. Please continue to like. There you go. Please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And hit the bell button so you can get notifications of new videos that I put out because, as I mentioned earlier, the YouTube algorithm is a trip. So please hit the notification button so you will not miss podcasts like these or me just running off of my mouth on random videos like I did earlier today with Kyrie and the NBA. So thank y'all for tuning in tonight. Yes, thank you. And we'll be back next week. So until next time, peace out.